This is Ariane Andrew, and you guys are listening to another wrestling podcast.
It's time for another wrestling podcast.
The measuring stick just changed around here, buddy. You're looking at
the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
They think they got the answers. I change the question.
The cream of the crop. Nobody does it better.
These are the best in the world, brother. These are the best at what they do.
When we talk about the legends of the sport, there's only two in my book.
Another wrestling podcast.
Another wrestling podcast. Now can you dig that, sucker?
Welcome, everybody, to another wrestling podcast. This is episode number 123. I'm Jonathan Benjamin.
And I'm Steve Credo. Wow. 123 ABC, 123, 123 episodes. It's been quite the journey, Jonathan. We're going to have another great guest on today. Ariane Andrew, formerly known as Cameron from the WWE, one half of the Funkadactyls. She'll be joining us in the studio. We're going to talk to her about what she's been up to and what we can expect from her this year. So that's just another reason why to stay tuned to another wrestling podcast. Jonathan, man, for first-time listeners, baby, why should they stay around? What makes us so different than any other wrestling podcast? I mean, we got something different to offer, don't we?
Absolutely. We are a topical show. That means we can go over any cut that you may have. No, that's an ointment. We like to go out there and talk about, anybody can talk about what happened on Raw, anybody can talk about what happened on SmackDown, and yes, we will do that, but also we go further. We are an evergreen show. You can go back to episode number 1, you can go to episode 51, you can go to 121, and we are talking about something that never gets old. We can talk about this. We've talked about tag team wrestling. We've talked about women's wrestling, the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, all these things. And we really like to get you guys involved. So, you've tweeted us, you have Facebooked us, you have Instagrammed us, you've let us know what you want to talk about, and we try to make sure that happens. Today's show, we're going to be talking a little bit about reality shows in wrestling. So it's once again just another way that we try to be different and stand out. It's really it's what we strive to do.
That's right. Head on over to anotherwrestlingpodcast.com. You'll find all of our links. Like he mentioned, like us, follow us, subscribe to us, leave us some reviews, let us know you're out there. And Jonathan, by listening to the show, you never know what you could walk away with. Like last week, our winner, Bertram James, who won a pair of tickets to Northeast Wrestling's Wrestling Under the Stars 5. He got to go to the show for free. And how did he do that? He just listened to the show, listened to our directions to tweet us or Facebook us or Instagram us. He did that. He was entered into the drawing, and hey, he won the tickets. So it pays to listen.
Yeah, and I want to thank him for listening. I also want to thank Northeast Wrestling for giving us that opportunity. They had some amazing shows this past weekend. And we just can't wait to see what happens next with Northeast Wrestling.
That's right. Jonathan, it's been a crazy week as always. We could run down every single show in the week, but it would take us probably a week to do that. So we try to pick out the biggest bullet points, if you will, the biggest things that are happening in the week. So Jonathan, let's get right into the week that was.
All right. Well, I would be remiss if we didn't start with this. Your brand new Universal Champion, Kevin Owens. If you weren't sitting down when I said that, or you didn't know that, spoiler alert, I apologize. Finn Balor got injured at SummerSlam after becoming the very first Universal Champion, and now we have none other than Kevin Owens. That has got to put a smile on a lot of people's faces out there, and Kevin Owens, very deserving of this championship. I hope he has a long run with this. And really, in this business right now, there's nobody that I would rather have as our Universal Champion. Steve, what were your thoughts on this, watching it on Monday? It was a big match, a 4-man match, big cast, Kevin Owens. we had Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. What was your thought about this match?
Yeah, I couldn't have made this ending any better than what it was. I mean, it was a great heel ending. You know, he didn't need to win clean. He didn't need to have that perfect pin. It was perfect having Triple H come out and knock the other Shield members, the former Shield members, Rollins and Reigns, pedigreed them, got them out. And gave it to Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is the new Triple H guy. I'm down with that. And Jonathan, you know, this is what's so great about the brand split is that we'll actually get to see guys like Kevin Owens up in the forefront where they should be. Because when you looked at it before the brand split, there's just so many guys to go through, and not everybody's going to be able to be that WWE champion. And unfortunately, you know, some guys were put on the back burner because there was just so many guys. You know, it's either you have somebody hold on to the championship for a long time or a few months, and then it gets passed around to a certain amount of guys. But guys like Kevin Owens, guys like AJ Styles now on the other show, guys who I didn't think would get a title shot right away are getting them. This is, I think, the best part of the brand split, to where each show has a champion, and, you know, rightfully so. These guys have paid their dues, and I think, you know, especially Kevin Owens, they should be the champion. So, you know, he's had from his debut, man. He debuted and beat John Cena. He was Intercontinental Champion. I'm happy with this. There's no complaining here, and I'm kind of glad to see nobody in the Shield have the championship right now besides Dean Ambrose. Do you think this Universal Championship now outshines the WWE Championship? Because I don't know. I think there's more people that are happy that Kevin Owens has this belt than they are with Dean Ambrose holding the original one.
Once again, we were talking about the belt a couple weeks back, and it's important to make the distinction. It is two different belts. I think that's what they had to do. They made this Universal Championship to kind of separate that, because now people have to see that they are two separate entities. I think that they are both integral to the shows. I think that the SmackDown belt is just as important as the Raw belt, and that's what needs to be that cannot be understated, because we all remember whenever CM Punk was holding the title on SmackDown, you know, a lot of people thought that it didn't really mean anything. And that's what can happen if people don't show importance to this. So I think having AJ Styles in the forefront, as well as, you know, like challenging for this belt, is going to really make the belt mean something right now. You know, whether he's chasing Dean Ambrose for it or Dean Ambrose is chasing him, having AJ Styles is really going to give that nod to the IWC, the people who are really diehards that, you know, they have Kevin Owens, but also they can have AJ Styles, which, if that happens, I think a lot of people are just going to probably be able to die happy, because it's really impressive. But that's my thought. Is I don't think that one belt outshines another. I think that they're both very important to the shows right now, and to get these shows both going off in the right direction, they need that. They really do.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's going to be a little bit of a competition to be like, you know, Kevin Owens is our champion on Raw, and then if AJ Styles does win, AJ Styles is our champion. And so it's like, it's almost like, are they each show going to try to outdo who has the better champion on each show? I'll tell you what, man, I can't talk enough about this brand split, because I've never watched SmackDown live as much as I had in the past few weeks, in the past few years, since they went back to the original pre-tape shows. I would usually just read the spoilers, and if I liked what happened, I would watch it live. But you know, now we're not spoiled by that, and it's live. So I mean, it's must-see TV every week. So Monday and Tuesday, you know, I'm there. I'm glued to it. I gotta watch. I gotta see what happens now. So it's definitely working. I think they're definitely made both shows equal once again. So it's been great. And you know, with this brand split, a lot of guys are able to come back, make a little appearance. Like we just saw, the Headbangers made a little return on SmackDown. Now, granted, this isn't a full-time return like the Dudley Boys did. It was probably just a one-off. But maybe it could turn into something more. What are your thoughts on, you know, bringing old talent back, you know, for little matches like this? I'm not saying you have to sign them to a 3-year deal, but hey, just use them in like a few weeks or one show or something. I think it adds more to the show, where there's like, you know, it's not just your WWE people. Now you have jobbers back on the scene, and now, you know, you get some veterans like the Headbangers to come back, make an appearance, and I don't know, it makes the show more enjoyable. I don't know. What do you think? Yeah,
absolutely. You had the Headbangers on there. You know, we've interviewed Glenn Ruth before. It's an amazing thing that this brand split has happened. Before you had 3 hours on Raw, and they were trying to fit everybody into that show, and that didn't always happen. But now you can do these things, and it's just a really impressive thing. It's very cool to see these guys. They were excited to be back, and that's ultimately what I want. I don't want these people to come back or that just there for a paycheck or whatever. I want people who are excited to be there because they know that they're taking, like Rhino's a perfect example. Every time that Rhino's been there, like he's highlighted somebody else, he's made somebody else look better. Right now they have him with Heath Slater. Like Rhino is an amazing talent and doesn't probably get the credit he deserves. And I think that that's just a testament to how good he is because they can bring him back at any time. The Tommy Dreamer's the same way. Everybody, has their opinions on Tommy Dreamer, but they bring him back for a reason. So I think that this is great. I think this is the way that the brand split should have happened, and I'm really excited to see maybe some of the other people that they end up bringing back.
Definitely, and we haven't really touched too much on it, but I do want to bring it up. The sets are amazing. I'll tell you that, man. They totally updated it. SmackDown set, man, with the video on the ground, it just looks totally different. It looks. At first, I was like, they're not using a ramp. And now they totally changed it to where they have like this video on the ground, like these little panels or whatever. It's fantastic. They finally updated it what they needed. I mean, just watching people come out now, it's like it's awesome. Nobody else is doing it. Especially the nice little touch with the ring, the posts around the ring. They have like a little video around it. It could have been better, but I mean, I think it's a start, and it definitely makes WWE stand out more than any other company. So I'm glad they did a little facelift on the sets too, man. It's great. They've definitely separated these shows. The only thing that's bothering me is that SmackDown has to have live in the title right now. Hopefully they'll weed that out after a while to just remind people that it's live every week, but it should just be SmackDown. I don't know. Speaking of SmackDown, man, it's been must-watch TV. Even going back to last week, the fallout from Miz's promo. What are your thoughts? I mean, that was definitely as real as you get, I guess. A lot of emotion involved in it, and I don't know. Was it right? Was it wrong? Was it the right place? Wrong place? I don't know.
Well, I've gone on record for many, many years as not being a Miz fan in the sense of his wrestling ability, his in-ring, performance. Nothing's really grabbed me. I'm not a Miz fan. With that being said, I do respect that he's been there for 10 years. I respect that he went through a lot of crap to get where he is. So I can agree with all of that. The Miz himself said that he's been in the WWE for nearly a decade, and this is really the first time that anybody has been talking about the Miz in a positive light. He has his fans, which is fine, but to be completely honest, it's just not consistent enough for me. And I use the adage, even a blind squirrel can find a nut once in a while, and I feel that way with the Miz. He captured something. And this is due to his history with Daniel Bryan, obviously, and it was easy for them to play off. You know how Mick Foley has like a cheap pop, and he comes out and says, "I'm glad to be right here in Poughkeepsie." It was exactly that with the Miz. Like he knew that he could, the writers or whoever knew that him going after Daniel Bryan, one of the most beloved independent wrestlers and IWC members, that he would get heat, and that's exactly what he did. So. I know a lot of people were excited about this. This week, there was a continuation, and now we see The Miz versus Dolph Ziggler for the Intercontinental Championship, which is amazing. But I'm just not sold on The Miz still. Yeah,
I mean, regardless, from that promo, he was kind of campy, he's an actor, he doesn't have to do this and that. I got the gimmick, it was good, but I thought it could be better. Being that cocky in his promo and, being a coward, telling him that, he's not the coward, that he's there each and every day. That energy and him being fired up was great. It got rid of that campiness of him and just being, he still have the same gimmick, still, doing what he's doing, but just being more meaner, I guess it could be more angrier or something, I think does wonders. he could go down as probably being the longest reigning IC champion of all time. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with him. He almost was the, hey, we need an IC champion. Let's put it on The Miz. So he was like the go-to IC champion for a little bit. He winning it on and off, and he's held it for quite a little bit right now. I don't know if they're going to keep it on him or what after that promo, but it'll be interesting to see what happens and to see if he can be consistent with this new little mean streak. But all in all, I guess we'll have to see what happens, and hopefully it doesn't fade away. Hopefully he could use this and create a little bit better of a career for him than what he had. So I don't know. It was definitely good. Definitely made everybody tune in. Definitely made everybody talk, and it was interesting. But regardless, there's been a lot of other stuff going on in the world of wrestling. One thing I do want to mention is that it's not wrestling related, but it's UFC related. And next week, Jonathan, CM Punk is going to have his first UFC fight in over. I think he's been there for almost 2 years now, and this is going to be his first fight from training and whatnot. Have you been following any of this? Have you seen anything on CM Punk? And I don't know.
I have. I've been watching the YouTube videos, and they're. I would highly suggest them if you're a UFC fan or a CM Punk fan or just a fan of good things. They're kind of chronicling his from the beginning, like whenever he told AJ Lee that he wanted to do this and all that stuff. They're very well done. They're awesome videos that you can find for free on YouTube. So it's definitely hyped it up a little bit. As somebody who doesn't watch UFC consistently, it was something that I've been interested in, and I don't wish bad on anybody. I really don't. So I hope that he does well. I hope that this is something now that he is, he's in, whether he wants to be or not. So it's going to happen, and if he wins, great. If he loses, at least he tried. There's a lot of people out there every day that say I'm going to do this or whatever, and they never do it. So it was it's awesome, and I wish him nothing but the best. I want for all those people who say that wrestling's you like even Conor McGregor that he's calling all the wrestlers pansies or whatever. This is a good way to kind of shut some of these people up. So
that's exactly what I'm hoping for. To where when Brock went over there and destroyed everybody, won the UFC championship, it was like, haha. Screw you guys! A wrestler just defeated your division or whatever. I really, with the recent Conor McGregor stuff, I really, really, really want CM Punk to go in there and win, and not just win he had the most punches or whatever. Because I hate watching UFC sometimes too. It depends on what it is, but I want to see him get a knockout. I want to see him do something to where it's like, another wrestler has gone into your company and defeated somebody or done something good. So I'm hoping the best for him. But yeah, a lot of people say he's too old, even though he's in his 30s. But a lot of these other guys have been doing it for their whole life almost, training since they were kids. So they're bred fighters. Granted, CM Punk came, he grew up just wrestling, so he has the athleticism. But he's been only training for 2 years, so. Granted, I know he's been with wrestling his whole life and keeping in shape for that, but at the same time, this whole MMA world, UFC world, whatever, is a totally different ball game. So I'm hoping he wins. I'm rooting for him. If he does lose, like you said, man, hey, he tried it, he lost, whatever. It's you win some, you lose some, but just he's probably lost more wrestling matches than he's gonna lose UFC matches, but. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'll definitely tune in for it. I'm kind of curious to how their viewership will go, to where if he can draw in any names or any of his fan base, to where they'll buy it just for him. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But good luck to CM Punk.
Well, another thing, titles have been a huge source of complaints and happiness in the past couple of weeks, but Ring of Honor announced this week that they are going to introduce the World 6-Man Tag Team Championships very shortly. There's a lot of 3-man teams out there right now in Ring of Honor, and this was not met without controversy, as usual, and a lot of people are saying that they need a women's championship before this 6-man tag team championship. Do you have any thoughts on this, Steve? Are you excited about new championships? What's your thoughts on this?
I love championships no matter what. I don't care if everybody had a championship except for one guy. I would love it. But, like Ring of Honor, TNA, I don't think they need the 6-man tag team championships. I think the only company that should have it should have been the WWE, because they've had the abundance of wrestlers on there. They've had that the depth in the roster for this kind of thing, to where, a few years ago you had the Shield, you had the Wyatts, now you have New Day, you had a lot of 3-man teams, and it would have worked great. But Ring of Honor, the roster isn't as huge to do this. Now you're just going to be teaming up guys just to do it, just for this. And yeah, like you said, man, I think these, I know they're trying to be different, and that's great, but at the same time, it's like, I don't think you guys have enough guys to have a good division, if you will, of 6-man tag team champions. I don't know. I think, more importantly, look at what you don't have and establish the more important titles. Like the Women of Honor Championship would have been a great, like you said, to add right away. Women's wrestling is here to stay. You definitely have a lot of great talent down there in the women's division, and that would have been the first title you should have put back or brought in. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think they need it. I don't think they have the talent for it, and it's just going to probably stick around for a little bit, then possibly fade away. I don't know. I definitely don't think they need it.
Okay. All right. Well, fair enough. That was, ladies and gentlemen, that is what we do each and every week. We do a quick wrap up of the week that was. If you have thoughts or ideas about what we said, maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, head on over to the Twitter machine at @WrestlingPod. You can find us on Facebook. Let us know what your thoughts are on some of these things. I know a lot of you are very happy, like I said, about the Kevin Owens thing, but I know you've got opinions, so let's hear them.
We get phone calls on our hotline, 802-297-7672. That's 802-AWP-7672. The phone line is always open. Give us a call. It's like leaving a voicemail for somebody. Cut a promo. Tell us what you want to hear. Tell us who you want to hear from, or tell us how great I'm doing, how horrible Jonathan's doing. Anything you want to leave us, give us a call. We get emails, we get mail from Facebook, we get messages, tweets, and all that. But Jonathan, we had a little bit of a poll this week. Now, before the Universal Championship happened, the day before it happened, I asked, who do you want to win the WWE Universal title? Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Big Cass, or Roman Reigns. Now, Twitter, man, it's hard, because if you follow a lot of people on Twitter, you're going to see a lot of posts. If you follow 5 people on Twitter, then you're golden. But if you follow us and you follow thousands of other sites, if you saw the poll, you saw it and you voted. If you didn't, you missed it. But regardless, that's why you should follow us and subscribe to our tweets. 13% voted for Seth Rollins. 11% voted for Big Cass, 9% for Roman Reigns, and 67% voted for Kevin Owens. Jonathan, the fans have spoken, man, and I'm so glad that they kind of listened. Granted, it might not just have been our who they listened to, us, but Kevin Owens did actually end up winning. It could have went anyway. It could have went to Seth Rollins. It could have even went to Roman Reigns. Big Cass was the long shot, but Jonathan, the fans voted for Kevin Owens, and I think this is the first time, probably, I want to say since Daniel Bryan won the championship at WrestleMania, that the fans were so just generically happy for him. Whether he's a heel, he's a face, or whatever, the fans were just so grateful that he won. And I don't know, it has been like that in a while, and man, that poll, that's what people said, man. He's 67% of the vote. More than half of you said that you wanted Kevin Owens to win, and lo and behold, he won, Jonathan. So I guess, voting on the polls like this works. You get to speak your voice a little bit if you don't want to speak, but you still get to vote. Rock the vote, you did, and Kevin Owens won it. So maybe on our next poll, no matter what happens, maybe you, the fans out there, they'll listen to.
And Steve, once again, let everybody know why they should be tuning in today. Who is our guest that we are about to talk to?
Definitely. Well, you guys remember her as one half of the Funkadactyls. You saw her on Total Divas, and now you can hear her on another wrestling podcast. Here is Ariane Andrew.
Joining us is a proverbial Jill of all trades. She's a wrestler, a singer, an actress, an activist, and one of the hottest free agents in pro wrestling today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ariane Cameron Andrew. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
I am doing well. I love that intro. It was everything.
Well,
thank you for that.
No problem. That's you. So obviously, to say that you've been busy since parting ways with WWE would be an understatement. Can you let some of us in on the things that you've been up to lately?
Things have definitely been exciting since parting ways with WWE. It's obviously a bittersweet situation, but everything in life happens for a reason. Things have just been great. I have a commercial agent. I have a theatrical agent that's getting me out there, creating relationships. Things have just been moving. I will definitely say I'm blessed, even though I'm, WWE is still and wrestling is still a part of my heart. I have to keep, pushing through and being able to live my dream in other types of ways.
Some people, it's true, they struggle after they leave WWE, and it seems like that is not happening with you. So it's just nice to hear, that you're keeping busy. It's great.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I've always been kind of there's so much I feel like the fans and, the WWE universe never really got to see like the real Ariane and all the things. Like at the end of the day, like as much as I know what my pros and cons are, as much as I know that was I the best, in-ring performer where I could just wrestle my ass off, no, I know what, I bring a lot of charisma, bring a lot of personality. I feel like I brought a lot of character to the table. And that's one thing about me. Like, I fight for what I want. Unfortunately, with how WWE ended, it didn't end after fighting for so much, but that's just the type of person I am. I don't let anyone tell me no. If I want something, I keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And sometimes, it works and sometimes it doesn't. But at the end of the day, just kind of like with WWE, I can walk away saying, I gave it my all. I went back down to NXT. I did, I pitched storylines. I pitched being a manager, TV host, like so many things. And that's just kind of me. As long as I feel like I've done everything I possibly can do, whether if it was in WWE or now in my, outside world, the world that I'm living in now, it's like, I feel like if I give it 110%, I can walk away no matter what happens, saying I put it all in, and whatever the outcome is, that's how it was meant to be.
Absolutely. Now, we just mentioned that you parted ways with WWE. You've got a lot going on right now, but do you feel that was the end of your wrestling career, or do you still think that there's a chance someday we'll see you back in the squared circle?
To be honest, I still have, I have my moments, and I get sad sometimes. I actually had an audition where I was going through like gear. I didn't necessarily need gear, but a particular outfit that I used to wear, I was like, that would be perfect for it. And I literally had like a moment where I started like tearing up because there's still a part of me that, misses. That was a big part of my life for such a long time. Everybody knows I didn't watch wrestling growing up. That's not a secret, but it's something that I became a part of and that I really became passionate about. So there's still a big part of me that I feel like I'm not done. There's stuff that I still do want to accomplish. Now, can I predict the future? Will it ever happen? I have no idea. I don't know what the future holds. But there's still a big part of me that still has, I feel like, a place to fulfill and to still prove and show what I'm capable of doing. So can't predict the future, but who knows what will happen.
Okay, all right. Well, you got to wrestle nearly all the women in the WWE and mostly all of them in NXT. But with that being said, now that you can be on kind of a more global scale as far as wrestling companies or anything like that, is there anybody that you thought about wrestling that you hadn't got a chance to wrestle that you'd like to?
That's actually a really good question. I would say, you know what, because Lita works down, Amy, she works down at NXT, and she was a producer for a few of my matches, and she was always a badass. Everyone loved it. She was just like her flavor. She wasn't your typical, at the time, diva. She had her own style. She didn't care, and that's, people loved about her. And I feel like if I had the opportunity, I'd actually love to wrestle her. She's hella down to earth, cool people, and I would love to have that moment to be like, oh, I got to get in the ring with Lita.
That's awesome. Now, I want to back up a little bit. You would, we heard you on Stone Cold's podcast. It was an amazing, amazing podcast. And you mentioned on there that you went to a WWE talent search prior to actually joining the cast of Tough Enough. As someone who wasn't necessarily a fan growing up, what kind of made you, what was it about the WWE that made you try out for that talent search?
That's actually a really good question. So, if I don't make a long story long, if I had to do it by the book, I went to school and got my 2 degrees, but I knew I always loved entertainment. I also ran track and cross country in high school, and before WWE, I worked with autistic children as a senior behavior therapist. So when I found out about WWE and how they give back to the community, the Special Olympics, how it's a sport and it's entertainment, I was like, that's pretty much killing, what is it? And it's 2 birds, 1 stone. Killing 3 birds with 1 stone is a nice thing.
Yeah, sure.
Pretty much having everything I could dream of into one thing. I'm like, how it can't get any more perfect than this. I get to be physical and still live the sports aspect of my life, but still be able to give back to the community because I still have a big part of, helping in the community and being a woman of empowerment and just kind of being a role model. And then being able to entertain and be able to, go out there and make people smile. And that's my job. I'm like, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, it's neat to hear it from your perspective, and that's another thing that we learned from the Stone Cold podcast is just how much education you have, and I don't know that ever shone through as your time, during your time in WWE, but it is very impressive, the work you did before that. So,
thank you.
No problem. Now, you became a part of the WWE, and you started training. What were your initial thoughts about the wrestling training? Now, we also know that you're fairly athletic, before you ever getting into this. So was it up to your expectations, or did you think that training was more difficult than you had imagined?
It was definitely way more difficult than I imagined. I vocalized this to friends and family, but I'm a person about just being honest because at the end of the day, I'm not superhuman. I'm a person just like you are, and I don't consider myself any more special or any more different. And if I'm completely honest, when I went down there, it was a lot to take in. Just because since I didn't come from a wrestling background, it's already daggers or how to, it's a difficult. You have to really, really prove yourself. Not only dealing with that mental capacity, but then the physical part of, people, criticize us all the time, and they don't realize it's a lot on your body. It's like a mini car accident, and we do all of that and put our bodies on the line just to make sure that our fans are happy. And we have no problem with doing it because it's that's what we enjoy doing it. I always say if you don't love wrestling, there's no way in hell you can do it. You're gone 300 days off the year. You miss so many things. It's a lot on the body. You miss so many moments that time is priceless. You can never get that back. And, packing up my stuff, having to move to Tampa when I was used to just being a Cali girl. I went to high school and college on the same street. It was a huge adjustment. And just the physical part, I literally remember taking a bump, and I was trying to get it that week, and Norman Smiley was like, you're not going to learn how to do this in a week. It takes time. And I remember him being so frustrated with me because he's like, girl, it's not going to happen. Get over it. But it was a lot. I remember that first week, I remember calling my mom, and I was like, Mom, it's, it's so hard. It's a lot, like mentally, physically, like, I don't think anyone likes me. And, like the whole, like, kind of initiation, kind of getting to know everyone, like I said, proving myself because I didn't come from a wrestling background. It was a lot to take in, but I'm not a quitter. And people had even told me, like, oh, we thought you were going to quit the first week. And that's just, that's just not me. It's something that I signed up for. It's something that I was excited. It was something I was ready to push myself beyond my limits. It's something I've never tried before. So I was really excited to take on the challenge. And like I was saying earlier, I don't take no for an answer. When I want something, no one's going to stop me.
Yeah. Now we all got to see you come up on Tough Enough and grow as a performer and wrestler, right before our eyes. Have you been able now to kind of sit back and realize just how far you came now that some time's passed? Because it was rough in the beginning and, people were doubting and all of that. But are you personally able to see, the improvements that you made and at least be grateful that what you've done?
Sometimes I feel like it's hard because I feel like I didn't leave the mark that I wanted to. It's like I didn't get to all the training and stuff that I did back at NXT, really researching and doing, my research on the history behind, wrestling. I never got to show that. So it's like I feel like it's half and half. I can look back at things and be like, wow, I've really come a far way. No one expected me to get here. But at the same time, I guess because we're human, it's like you always want more, but not more in a greedy way. More so of I wanted just to come back to make that one last imprint, to be like everything it was. I want to show like everything that you guys doubted me about, or everything that you guys said I couldn't do. It all just to go back and damn near lose my job to prove that it's like this is something I want. This is something I want to get better at. I know what my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are. Just to prove myself, if not to make a long story long.
Well,
so, yeah.
It had to be somewhat gratifying in the fact that even though you were among the first eliminated from Tough Enough, you ended up staying there longer than anyone out of the competition, and that's for a reason. That wasn't because you weren't good. It was, the cream rises to the top, as they say. So did you feel that at all, or you just kind of didn't realize that or worry about that?
I don't necessarily agree with that, because I'm pretty sure there's people that you can relate to that you look at and you're like, I don't know, I can't speak for you, but I'm pretty sure there's people now in the WWE that you probably thought should be at a certain level, but they're not. So yes, in a sense, and no, in a sense, just because I feel like not necessarily sometimes hard work and dedication doesn't pay off, it's one of those type of things. It's kind of like how WWE sees you. You can think that you're the most amazing thing ever, or what you have to bring to the table. But if they don't see it, it doesn't matter, and at the end of the day, you have to have the machine backing you and being like, you know what? And I'm pretty sure there's people that you've seen that you may not feel that is necessarily deserving, even though I could say they deserve it, but you may be like, oh, this person should be there, but they're not, and this other person's getting something, but then you're like, how did they get it? It's kind of like the nature of the game.
Yeah.
But I said yes and no. Yes, because I was the first one gone, but the last one standing. But there's so much more I feel like I could have brought to the table that didn't even require being in the ring.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's like a half and half. Like very blessed and very gracious to have had everything that I did have, because it could have just been done after Tough Enough. So I feel very blessed to have had all the opportunities to be a part of Total Divas, to be able to be on the main roster. People go to developmental and they never see the light of day of the main roster. I was there for a cough, and fortunately and unfortunately, I was called up early, and that's also like the con of being called up early. Was happy to have it, but I was not ready for it.
Well, and the fact that you can admit that is something that I don't know that a lot of people would do that. So I commend you on that as well. But there's something that everybody is going to know you for, and you know where I'm going with this already. They asked you your favorite match. Listen, even though that you said Alicia Fox versus Melina, you could have said nothing. You could have said that you didn't know, whatever. But now that you've spent a lot of time in the wrestling business and you've been a part of some amazing matches yourself, if you had to answer that question over again, what would your favorite match of all time be?
It would be, I would definitely say Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat, WrestleMania 3. And the reason why, and there's a lot, because I really enjoyed the Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon feud and Bret Hart in Austin. But I feel like that one really stood out to me just for the simple fact, of course, the main attraction was the main event, which was Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan. Of course, that was what the attraction was. But I felt like for people who were, mid-carders, they stole the show. But that's my personal opinion. And because of that, like all the false finishes they had, I really enjoyed that. I love that when, hey, maybe you're not the top person, but you can come in and be like, you know what, damn it, I'm going to use my time wisely and I'm going to shine in that sense. So I would definitely say that would now be my favorite match for sure.
Awesome. Now, we both know professional wrestling fans are among some of the most passionate fans out there. They can also be some of the most judgmental and at times very unforgiving. Understatement of the century. But how difficult was it to see people that were actively trying to bring you down? And then, on the other side of that, how gratifying was it to have loyal fans that stood by you? Did it even out, or was it just... I can't imagine. So I just wanted to know, what your thoughts were just from that situation.
So if I kind of rewind back to the question you asked me, with, my favorite match, I feel, and I've said this before, if it was someone else that, was definitely respected, was a, wrestling fan growing up, if they said Melina versus Alicia Fox, it would have been okay. And people probably would have jumped on the bandwagon like, yes, you know what, that match was actually phenomenal, And looking back at it, I do see why, the fans were so hot. And that's why I, took everything seriously. I did my research. I watched my tape, studied, wanted to get better, wanted to learn. And I see why people were so upset. Do I regret that? I don't, because I feel, and not in a mean way, just because if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have learned, or maybe I wouldn't be where I'm at today, because life is about growing and learning from your mistakes. So I'm not saying it was a mistake, but I'm happy that it did happen, because it had me kind of sit down and learn from fans and take constructive criticism and see what I could change to agree with some things, maybe not to disagree, and just make me a better person overall. But to get back to your question, it definitely can be, it's difficult because I'm human and stuff does affect me when there's things that are so evil that are being said. But, the one thing I will say about wrestling fans, they're so loyal, and regardless if they hate me or love me, I feel like it makes me a stronger person that can definitely learn, whether it's they're wanting to rip my head off. And there's some crazy stuff that I won't say that has been said to me that I was just like, damn, woo, okay, wow, that really hit home. That's hard. I've never heard anything like that in my life. And I won't get into specific details, but but then there's also those fans that still rock with me now and are super loyal, and the things that I see that they do. I see things like, we want Cameron back, and it was this would be the perfect time for her to shine with the brand. So I do love it. It is unfortunate, though, because WWE was such a big part of my life. Now that I'm not, I haven't been on TV for over a year, and I'm not doing wrestling at the moment, it's kind of they're loyal, but it's not, the loyalty isn't as much because I'm not in that world like I was. So, sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow, and I'm trying to figure out, well, what is it that I could still do that keeps them engaged and wanting to still follow my journey? And two, because like I said, who knows? Wrestling, I don't think that I'm officially 100% done with it. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like one day, they may see me back in the ring. For now, I'll be doing wrestling, autograph signings, but who knows? You'll may see me back in the ring.
Oh, well, we're looking forward to anything that you've got going on, and obviously, speaking of fans and the potential of bullying, it's something that must have touched you in a way because you started your very own anti-bullying campaign called Wrong Number. What caused you to create this program? How can people learn more about it? And are you happy with the results so far?
So the whole point of Wrong Number, it was never about the music. I just do things because I feel like it's fun. It's a different way to express myself. And instead of being like, hey, don't do this, which is no one's going to listen to that, how can I make it fun and enjoyable? And that's why I decided to do music. And pretty much I've got a lot of fans who, because I communicate with my fans, if you go on my website, which is changing, by the way, but on my revamped website, it'll still be there, where they can send me a digital letter, or I have a P.O. box where they can send me stuff. And I've always been kind of active with my fans, and because if without them, who is Ariane, who is Cameron, there would not be any of that. So I feel like I always, have to give my loyalty back. They're giving me something, I'm going to, in return, at least write them back and hear them out and take in, like I said, constructive criticism and all the positive things as well. And so the whole thing with Wrong Number was pretty much embracing the skin that you're in. For every hater, there's a believer. And if you're not about positivity, you have the wrong number. Nowadays, with social media being such a huge place where people can just go on there and say how they feel, it's become crazy. And I just feel like anybody can relate when they've probably felt insecure about something, or someone's told them no when they really wanted something. And just when you're relentless and you have ambition and, you're hungry, the sky has no limits. The sky, don't, if you have a dream, just keep pushing for it. And, I just created that just to kind of embrace fans and tell them, hey, love the skin you're in. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you're not pretty enough, not smart enough, not tough enough to do something. Keep on pushing. And that was my whole thing behind that, just because fans were reaching out, saying how they were bullied. And it's not even about me, because I don't want to say that fans have ever bullied me. It's just, it is, criticism, but it was a way of saying, you know what, hey, this is me. This is who Ariane is. I embraced myself, and I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't have the personality. There's still more that I want to do with it, but sometimes I feel like 24 hours is not enough time of the day, and I wish I had 10 hands to to be able to stretch out to do so many things. But I still kind of keep it around. I'm going to be celebrating the anniversary of it, since it was back last September that I released everything. And I will always keep my email open to talk to fans, and my P.O. box open to hear them out and for them to share their story.
Well, we learned a lot about you on WWE television, as well as interviews you've done. And I think it's important for us to maybe know, you went through this entire journey. What would you say the biggest misconception that people have about you that you'd be able to set straight today? Like I said earlier, it was very interesting and, great to hear about your collegiate career. So, I didn't feel like that WWE ever use that the way that they could have. But
exactly.
What do you think that people who just saw you on WWE television or have heard one interview from you or whatever, what's the biggest misconception that you think people have about you?
Cameron is Cameron. Cameron is a character that I feel like I played really well. She's feeling herself. She thinks she's, a complete heel. Who Ariane is it's a completely different person. I feel like people have gotten that confused, and I was never really able to show the difference of who Ariane is compared to who Cameron is. It's not a secret. We all know that we play characters, and who we are on TV is different than who we are in real life. And I just feel like people never got to really know who Ariane is. It was just it's Cameron, and that's not who I am. At the end of the day, I feel like I'm able to play my character well, but when it comes down to it, I'm a sweet person. I'm super down to earth. I don't feel myself like that. I'm actually a really fun person. So I feel like there was definitely a misconception there with, the lines between Cameron in Ariane. And I have so much to share. Like you said, I have a lot of color. I went to school. I have 2 degrees. Before WWE, I was actually going to get my master's to continue with psychology, and then WWE happened. And so I just feel like there was so much that people didn't see.
During your time in WWE, you just mentioned some of them, you got to be a part of a lot of amazing things. What would you consider your personal greatest accomplishment while you were in the WWE?
I guess one, I could say making my debut, because what I said before is most people never get to even see the light of day of the main roster. So making my debut with Brodus and Naomi, would definitely say that was awesome. Got to do that live. And getting to have, a championship match with AJ. Did I win? No, but I feel like that was definitely a highlight that some people don't ever get to see. Being a part of WrestleMania, even though my top broke in the middle and half, and that was super embarrassing. Most people never get to experience that, where I actually got to wrestle. Those are like the 3 things that kind of just pop up in my brain. I'm pretty sure once I get off the phone, I'll be like, oh, damn, this was a great moment. But I would definitely say those are like my highlighting moments that were like of significance.
Okay. Now, how did it feel to be immortalized in a video game and in action figure form?
The actions, I actually wanted to see in my action figure when Naomi and I split, but still, I have it actually not hanging. It's in my guest room, and it's awesome because wow, I have an action figure. It's like being a little kid, and you look at stuff like that, and I would never have imagined I would have an action figure or be in a video game. It's definitely a blessing. It's kind of almost unreal. It's did that really happen? And it's great to be able to look back at those accomplishments and be like, wow. And then those are the times when you were asking me before, it's I made a lot of accomplishments in my life. It's as far as life and with WWE. So when you put it that way, I can look back at stuff and be like, wow, that's truly amazing.
Yeah, and you did make a mark. Is it what everybody wanted? Is it what you wanted? No, but you can look back, and they're going to continue to show on the network or in the new encyclopedia or whatever they do. You have done something that very few people, when you really look at it, have done. So that's something to obviously be proud of right there. But you're a very goal-oriented person, it seems. So with that being said, what are some of your goals for the near future?
It's just to continue my journey. Most people, it's I get funny things on, and I actually laugh. When I was I have used to now, they're like, oh, will you be working at Walmart or welcome to McDonald's? And I'm just well, that's kind of rude because people do have jobs at McDonald's and Walmart, so that's not very nice, guys. But it's just to continue my journey to still have that wrestling part of me. I'll be doing autograph signings on the East Coast in September, October, November. Still keeping that a part of my life, even though I'm not necessarily in the ring, but advancing my career and moving on to the next level and about creating chapters. To me, I'm about learning and growing, and that's kind of with even WWE, I was kind of at a standstill. And for me, it's when I love something, do we need money to survive and to pay rent? And of course. But to me, it's what is life if you're not moving forward and you're just making money? To me, that's not happiness. And kind of where I was at with WWE, it's I want to grow. I want to be a part of me. I want to work hard for, my living. And so even though that chapter is closed, it's about now creating new chapters in my life and moving forward and hopefully having everyone come along on that journey with me as I keep making new chapters to the book. One may close and then another opens, and growing and just keep growing. Life is short. So as I look at the time, I'm woo, getting on up there. Going to be 29 this year. So just creating as many chapters as I can. I plan on doing a book. I've started with that, and just there's so much that people don't know about me and my career. I just wish that and I don't want to blame this all on WWE, that there was just so much more that could have been seen from me, that I was just almost one dimensional, and it was just oh, she just has one dimension. When I have so many more dimensions that WWE couldn't show it, but now that I have the ball in my court, I'm able to do what I want, how I want, and now it's like my turn now to show everyone, this is who Ariane is. This was my journey. Now you guys get to see everything and get to hear everything and get to know who Ariane is as a person.
Well, as we wrap up this interview, we want to ask you, where fans can keep up with you on social media. I know you mentioned a website. I don't know if you have a Pro Wrestling Tees site yet. That usually seems to be a pretty popular thing. Where can fans keep up with you?
So my Twitter, Snapchat, Periscope, Instagram, and Facebook is all Ariane Andrew. If I can lump it all in one. My website is www.arianeandrewnow.com, but that's actually changing. I just bought the domain of the official Ariane Andrew, so just to keep everything consistent, I will have that website being revamped and new, where there'll be so many cool things. Everyone can follow my new journey with what I'll be doing. If I could give a hint, I will be back on TV.
All right.
Just a different type of TV, just not involving WWE. But like I said, who's to say what the future holds?
Exactly.
So yeah, then I have a P.O. box that fans can write to. It's P.O. Box 6109, and that's in North Hollywood, California, 91603. So I'm always open for the fans to write me emails, to send me stuff on my website. As of now, like the one I just talked about, that one's still available now until I get my new one revamped, where they can go on there. The anti-bullying campaign's on there. My life is on there. Everything is pretty much on there. And then I look forward to all my fans that are on the East Coast to seeing them at the autograph signings that are coming up very soon.
Well, we want to thank you so much for joining us today. We wish you nothing but the best. And anytime that you'd like to come back on, we would love to have you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, once again, thanks to Ariane Andrews, formerly known as Cameron. Jonathan, straight from Total Divas, right to another wrestling podcast. Reality TV, man. I think we haven't really talked too much reality TV. We've talked a lot about movies and stuff with wrestling, but wrestling-related reality television. I think it started years ago with The Real World, and that was a big thing for MTV and whatnot. Then WWE kind of took it amongst themselves to make a Tough Enough series. They also had like a Diva Search competition. It's interesting. Granted, a lot of these reality shows are scripted more than where they come from, but so it's not technically reality, but in a way it's augmented reality. Wrestling has had a lot of these reality shows. Let's talk about some of these reality TV shows that have happened, and maybe some that we would want to see.
All right. Well, I'm digging what you're talking about here. The one that we obviously have to talk about is the predecessor of a lot of reality television, not only in the wrestling genre, but some of, the actual reality TV. That's something that WWE, whether they fail at it or not, they've always been on the forefront. There was the WBF, the World Bodybuilding Federation, that didn't go so well, the XFL, which everybody talks about, but they sometimes have their fingers on the pulse of exactly what's going on, and they hit the nail on the head with this reality television. They started this Tough Enough thing, which we all remember. It was on MTV, which made it, seemingly even cooler at the time because it was on MTV. But this was as real and as gritty as it gets. This was back whenever the business was still pretty protected. So they wanted people to think that this is exactly as tough as it is, and rightfully so. So you had people like Triple H that came on there. You had people like Ivory and Al Snow and people that were kind of cutting these people down and saying, like, listen, like, you're never going to make it. But we got a lot of great competitors out of that throughout the inception of the early inception of Tough Enough. It's a who's who of people. We had everybody from Ryback on there. We had Jackie Gata Haas. We had The Miz, John Morrison, and so on and so forth. So this is it made stars. There's no arguing that. So I think it was great. I think that they did a lot with it. It was still when WWE, the world, the restaurant there, WWF New York, was still around. They did a lot of stuff from there. I really miss that place. I never got to go there, and I'm very sad about that. But that is a different topic for a different show.
Wait,
But,
you miss it, but you never got to go there.
Yeah, well, I know I would have missed it for sure, but it was one of those things. It was riveting television, and they ended up bringing it back, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in a little bit. But do you remember this, Steve? Do you remember the actual?
Yeah, it was real world meets wrestling in a way, meets Road Rules Challenge or whatever they used to do, to where it was cool because it was like as a fan of wrestling, you wanted to kind of see what they had to do and see who they would talk to or who they work with next. It was interesting. Then they had, a lot of the hokey games and stuff, like you had the little competitions and stuff. It was cool. I liked it. It was good, man. And then it just stopped. And then it came back with Steve Austin later on, which was great. And our guest today, Ariane Andrews, who was also on Tough Enough, had one of the most memorable comments, which she stated in the interview. So a lot of things happened out of that too. So I loved it when they brought it back, then it went away again. And unfortunately, man, with the network out today, they should still do that. But, I think at the end of the day, Tough Enough was a solid show, and I hope it does come back. One of my favorites was the Legends House. Now, when the network first started, they were kind of teasing the Legends House for a while. Like, was it going to go on Hulu? Was it going to go on WWE.com? Was it going to go on USA Network? And it literally didn't go on air for at least a year or two. Like, it was sitting in the can, ready to go. They were trying to shop the network around, trying to get people interested, and the network finally came out, and Legends House finally came out. It was great. I mean, they almost held on to it too long, and it's unfortunate though. But I get that they had to sell some stuff to try to say, hey, this is the kind of shows that would be on the network. And another unfortunate circumstance is that, hey, there's no more Legends House. It was just a one and done deal, and hopefully they rethink that and do more and realize. I don't know. I liked it. It was definitely another real world meets WWE, and you got to see a lot of legends living together and going on these different excursions and doing different stuff. And I don't know, I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. I definitely like watching a lot of the legends interact with each other. Did you get to check it out, Jonathan? I really wish they would make more though.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. We've had some of those legends on the podcast. We talked to them, and it was great to actually see them interact. It's one of those things you never get to see that. We as fans, don't get to see what it's like for some of these guys. And a lot of them already did this. They've roomed together on the road or whatever. But there were some very interesting dynamics. It seemed that nobody liked Tony Atlas, and we found out something that we already knew about Pat Patterson, but that he was gay, which is great that he can come out on that show and talk about it and stuff. We also found out a lot about Rowdy Piper, who we didn't maybe know at the time. He had real anxieties about being with people and all that. So I don't know. It was a great show. A lot of cool things came from it, and I really hope that at some point they bring that back.
Yeah, it's just, granted, a lot of things could have been scripted, but there was definitely a lot of heat on there with Hacksaw and Tony Atlas, who we actually talked to on one of our first episodes. I believe it was episode 5. We talked to Hacksaw, Jim Duggan, and we talked a little bit about Legends House on there too. Wow, that goes back a long time too. But, through the evolution of time, we even got Total Divas, Jonathan. Now, when they mentioned Total Divas and what it was going to be about, I'm a personal fan. I watch Total Divas. My wife watches Total Divas with me. I think it's a great show. I love it because you get to kind of see the backstage stuff of a lot of the wrestling events. You kind of get to see what's going on. More than just their scripted reality, but I don't know. It's been strong pretty much, and now they're going to split this up into Total Bellas pretty soon. So, what are your thoughts on Total Divas?
It's genius for the people that are doing it, because it lets us learn more about these women that you may or may not have gotten to see, because before this whole women's revolution and stuff, everybody is aware that they got maybe 5-10 minutes of a episode of Raw or SmackDown. So this gives them a lot more time and gets to show their personalities, whether it's real or scripted. Ariane talked about some of this as well. So I think that it's a great way to do this. It's a great idea to have these shows. They're building brands, and that's what's important. And there's been some really classic moments on these shows already. So it's just I look forward to it. in a world where all I've ever wanted to do is watch a lot of professional wrestling, now I get that chance. I get a lot of programming, whether it be through the network or 80 hours of wrestling a week. So Total Divas is totally fine in my book, and I'm good with anything that highlights these performers and gives people more of a. They can take somebody that's relatively unknown and then throw them straight into wrestling, and people feel like they already know them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And it's been good too, to where a lot of these girls don't get enough TV time, and basically, I'm still pretty much sure that they're all they're not in their characters on the show, but at the same time they're in their own kind of character as themselves. So it's definitely interesting to watch. Hey, it just gives them more face time of who they are, and to get more viewers to watch wrestling. You'll probably get a lot of girls who watch reality shows and whatnot. They tune into that, and they're like, oh, what do they do? The wrestling? Huh, I'll have to check this wrestling out, So it's a good way to reach into another audience and bring in new viewers. So it's one of those things to where you could reach into this reality realm over on the E network that they have, and then you just bring in new viewers for wrestling. So it's a smart idea. But I'm kind of curious what they're going to do with Total Bellas pretty soon, because that'll be interesting with Daniel Bryan and John Cena also starring on it, like they were on Total Divas. But lately, there's been a lot of other great reality shows that they've done, and I think going back to Tough Enough, Breaking Ground, which also came out last year, was phenomenal. It was looking back into the Performance Center, looking guys making their way into NXT. It was great. We talked to Sami Callihan a little bit about that briefly when we talked to him a few months ago, but I love the show. I really hope another one comes out very soon. Did you like this one? It was definitely more of a reality show than like a scripted reality show. It was definitely more like a documentary series of these guys making their way in the business, and that's the kind of stuff I love watching too, to where you just put the camera on and just let it happen. You don't have to sit, you don't have to make this fake reality of you're sitting down to eat. It's just following the guys around, showing what they're doing, showing their way of what they have to do with the Performance Center, to make their way up into the main roster. So I love that series. I hope they make more.
Yeah, and fortunately for us, WWE has this entire network now, and we get to see these things like WWE 24/7. They took that kind of idea, I think, from ESPN and stuff, and we got to see these Roman Reigns story. There was one on Booker T. There was one on women's wrestling that they just did, and they're, in a sense, they're not a series, but they are reality-based television where we get to see these things play out right in front of us, and you get to see the real emotions. And it's not always sunshine and rainbows for these people. There's real implications. People are getting basically fired on live TV. They're saying, unfortunately, there's not enough room for you, blah blah blah, and you're not going to be part of this WrestleMania or whatever. And it's very riveting television. I think that there's a lot of people out there that would probably enjoy it, even if they're not a complete wrestling fan. So once again, it's making wrestling look good. There's some really great production there, and I enjoy all this reality-based television. We like to pick out favorites. We like to root for certain people. I remember, seeing, it's like the first time you meet a wrestler. If it's somebody who was a bad guy or whatever, and you meet them in person, they're not going to be that jerk typically. They're going to be like, hey, thanks for being a fan, blah, blah, blah. So it's nice to see some of these people outside of that, kayfabe thing where they can be who they really are. I even like watching the tattoo one that Corey Graves does, the Superstar Inc., because it's cool because, you get to see these guys and gals getting tattoos and talking about them and stuff, and it's completely out of character. So I really enjoy this type of reality television. Definitely.
And the newest show that they have on the network, Holy Foley, starring Mick Foley, his daughter Noelle Foley, his other sons is Frank the Clown, who's also a guest on the show. What do you think about this one, Jonathan? Any thoughts on Holy Foley? Have you watched it all yet? I'm still a few shows in. I haven't seen the whole season yet, or all the episodes, but I don't know. What's your first impressions of this new one?
It is a good show, and I do this because this is our show, but we've had several of the cast members of Holy Foley on. We've had Mick Foley as Santa Claus. We've had Dan Barry and Frank the Clown, who all make appearances on that show. It's a fun little show. I think that, it is a little scripted, but, that's the way these things work these days. But I think it's a fun thing, and I would suggest it to anybody who likes wrestling. It's, once again, you get to see some of these people outside of their comfort zone, outside of whatever, and it's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I love it. I'm a big Cactus Jack fan. I love Mick Foley, love Mankind, loved all the personas. It's definitely a nice little look into his world. And granted, not everything may be real or whatnot, but that's not the point. It's something different, and I kind of like it. It's looking into his life a little bit. Watching his daughter want to become a wrestling superstar. So it's definitely interesting, and it's a different show that they've ever had on there. So from Tough Enough to Legends House, Total Divas, Breaking Ground, Holy Foley, the programming keeps on getting bigger and better. I definitely love the reality. I definitely love the documentary series that they're doing. Jonathan, $9.99. You get to see all this. It's great. I love how they're building their own base of entertainment. So it's not just wrestling anymore. We get a little bit of reality shows, a little bit of documentaries. It's different, and I'm excited. I can't wait for more.
Yeah, they're just scratching the surface, as they say. So I think that we've got a lot of wrestling that we can look forward to, and a lot of sort of these types of programming. It's reality-based, and ultimately, I know that they talk about this a lot. If you signed up for WWE, like their emails, they send out these kind of surveys to try to find out what people would want to see. So that's the question I'm going to pose to you right now. You have absolutely any resource that you want, Steve. You can create any kind of reality-based network show that you would like. You can pick any family from wrestling, past or present. You can pick any topic. What would you want to see? I'm putting you on the spot, but what would you want to see in wrestling? What would you want to see on the network?
Man, I would love to see. There's a lot I would love to see, but just off the top of my head, something either dealing with McMahon and just what he deals with through the day, from meetings to, being backstage, watching the shows, being that he's the number one, go-to guy. If he doesn't want it, it's not going to happen. So I would love to see his decision-making of, stuff backstage, of, whose gimmick he likes, who he doesn't like, or what he wants changed, just like his decisions. I would love to see that. Just follow him around and just show us what he does at Raw, or if he goes to SmackDown, or whatever he's doing on the road, to board meetings, to anything. I just want to see. I want to see the McMahon file, or whatever. I don't know what the hell we're going to call it. I'm just the McMahon series, whatever. I would love to see something about him before it's too late. I would definitely love to see his process and what he has to deal with, because since he is the number one fish in the sea, if you will, of decision making, I would definitely love to see that.
Yeah, no, anything with McMahon, obviously we know brings ratings. That's no secret or lie. I feel like that Ric Flair, a reality show based around Ric Flair, would be where the money's at. They've talked about it before. He's been married several times. I think on that one of the surveys that I got, they talked about having a show based on the wives of Ric Flair. So I think that having Ric Flair be there, go through his day-to-day life. I mean, he's Ric Flair, so everything's got to be a little more difficult for him. If he goes to the grocery store, if he goes to a sports game, if he goes to his local, I don't know if he goes to like any meetings or anything like that, but everybody knows who Ric Flair is, and it would be hilarious just to follow him around with a camera. I think that's where the money is.
Definitely. So, hey, man, if they're listening and they use these, give us some credit. Let us develop the show with you. Jonathan, we've actually been working on a little reality show of ourselves. Granted, it's nothing as in-depth as some of these shows, but it was a little show. I don't want to give it away yet, but more or less stay tuned, I think we should say, right? Stay tuned in the coming weeks for an AWP exclusive series. I'm not going to give away the name either yet, because I want you to stay tuned, Jonathan. Anything else you want to tease them with?
I want to say that it's great. It's still going to continue to happen. So stay tuned to see how you can become a part of this series. We do everything here for you, for us. You know, we like to do this, but we like to get you involved as well. So stay tuned. And also, if you become a fan of what we did and you are interested, please let us know, because there is a chance that you can become a part of our very own reality show. Once again, we want to thank you all for listening today. Just another reason to stay tuned to another wrestling podcast. If you live in the Northeast, then you probably know who we're about to have on as a guest next week. If not, then tune in so you will learn this name. You will be saying it later. TK O'Ryan, the best around. He will be joining us in the studio live and in living color. So join us next week. And continue to listen to all of our great guests and shows that we have coming up.
Well, that's the show. We want to thank you all for listening today.
Every week we do the show free of charge for you, the fans.
And if you're wondering how to repay us, we have just the thing.
Subscribe to us on iTunes.
Hey, and while you're there, be sure to rate us and give us a good review.
If you're looking for more information about AWP, then head on over to anotherwrestlingpodcast.com.
We are all over social media, and you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and more.
If you are an AWP superfan, you can also show your support by going over to ProWrestlingTees.com/anotherwrestlingpodcast and buying one of our official AWP shirts.
We couldn't do this show without you, so tune in next week for
Another Wrestling Podcast.